Good day, sir. Today, we will talk about how to update the sailing directions, light list, radio signals, and other miscellaneous publications using the corrections found in the notice to mariners. And our objective for today: first, we will be able to know how to correct or update Admiralty sailing directions. Second, we will be able to know how to correct or update Admiralty list of lights and fog signals. Third, we will be able to know how to correct or update Admiralty list of radio signals. And lastly, we will be able to know how to correct and update other miscellaneous publications. First, we will talk about Admiralty sailing direction. Before using Admiralty sailing directions, the mariner must always, first, check the most recent edition of the volume and its supplement where relevant are held. Second, check that all amendments in annual notices to mariners Part 2 amendments to sailing directions have been applied. Third, check that all amendments published at Section 4 of weekly editions of Admiralty notices to mariners subsequent to the publication of the most recent edition of annual notices to mariners. Part 2, Notice to Mariners Part 2. Amendments to sailing directions have been applied using the most recent quarterly checklist at Section 1B of the weekly edition and most recent edition of cumulative list of Admiralty Notice to Mariners, where it is found that the most up-to-date information is not held. The most recent editions of Admiralty publications can be obtained from Admiralty chart agents, and back copies of weekly editions of Admiralty Notices to Mariners can also be downloaded from the UKHO website or www.ukho.gov.u. So how to correct the Admiralty sailing directions? Corrections of Admiralty sailing direction is under Section 4, Amendments to Sailing Directions of Weekly Notices to Mariners, or WNTM. The updates may be cut and pasted. So, the updates may be cut because you've printed it on the website UKHO. So, after you printed it, you cut it and pasted it directly into the book, or alternatively, it is recommended that updates are kept in a file with the latest enforced on top. Corrections are listed on the book, but you only have to list the date. Second, Admiralty list of lights and fog signals. System of updating. Each list of lights volume is kept up to date in a continuous revision cycle. This means that it will be continuously revised by its editors. For a period of 1 year using information received in the UKHO, it will then be republished as a new edition. Normally, in the same month annually, publication of a new edition is announced in Part 1 of the weekly edition of the Admiralty Notices to Mariners. During the life of the book Important Safety of Life at Sea, or the SOLAS, amendments are issued each week in Section 5 of the weekly edition of Admiralty Notice to Mariners. Minor amendments are Digital List of Lights, or ADLL. All minor and SOLAS amendments are included in each new edition of the book. The entire entry for each light amended will be printed, including minor changes, and asterisk will be denote which column contains an amendment in the case of new light. An asterisk will appear under all columns removed from list, will be used when a light is withdrawn, and remove fog signal when a fog signal is discontinued. So how Admiralty list of light and fog signal or all is corrected. Correction of Admiralty list of light and fog signal is under Section 5, Amendments to Admiralty list of lights and fog signals of weekly notice to mariners, or WNTMs. Asterisk mark indicates change in light, asterisk mark in all column of light indicates new light. The same on how to correct on the sailing directions. Correction on Admiralty list of light and fog signal are intended to cut, or you have to printed it and cut it and pasted it into the appropriate volume, same as the sailing direction. Third, Admiralty list of radio signals. Directions for updating the Admiralty list of radio signals. Each edition of Admiralty list of radio signals contains the latest information received by the UKHO and supersedes the previous edition. Subsequent updates to each book will be included in Section 6 of the weekly edition of Admiralty Notice to Mariners, copies of which can be obtained from authorized Admiralty agents or via the UKHO website. Note, NP284 or Nautical Publications 284 is only updated by new edition. So, how Admiralty list of radio signals or ALRS are corrected. Correction of Admiralty list of radio signals or ALRS is under Section 6. Amendments to Admiralty list of radio signals of weekly notice to mariners or WNTMs. Same as what we did on sailing directions and list of light and fog signals. Admiralty list of radio signals corrected by updating it on the UKHO, then you have to check the weekly corrections. Then when it has, you have to print it and cut out and paste it into the appropriate volumes. So lastly, how to correct and update other miscellaneous publications. Before starting chart corrections or publications, highlight the charts which you have on board with a highlighter pen in the correction log or NP133A. Second, note down in the correction log correction numbers from all A and M's that are to be corrected in an ascending order. Third, voyage charts must be corrected first, followed by all charts on board. And lastly, pull out the affected chart and confirm from the notice number whether the last correction affecting the chart is entered at the bottom left-hand corner of the chart. And then, after completing each correction, first, note down the correction number at the bottom left-hand corner of the chart. So you have to note down the correction at the left-hand corner of the chart. Then second, note down the correction number and week in which that correction received in the correction log 133A. Then third, strike out the correction number written in the chart correction log by a pencil. So you will now use pencil on striking out the correction number. Then fourth, strike out the chart number at the correction in A&M or the tracing. And lastly, before moving to the next chart, correct all corrections as noted from all A&Ms affecting the chart. Then, correction for a new chart. When a new chart or new edition of a chart is received on board, this procedure must be followed. First, highlight the chart number in the correction log. Erase all the old corrections in case of new edition and write the edition date on the pen. Second, enter the chart folio and sequence number from the index. In case of a new edition, this information is already present. Third, correct the chart for any pending corrections. Record these corrections in chart correction log in pencil. Fourth, correct the Admiralty chart catalog NP131 is affected. Cancel the old edition of the chart by writing boldly on top, cancelled, the word cancelled, and remove it from the bridge. And lastly, corrections to old charts. If a chart has not been kept up to date and the last correction affected on the chart is very old, use the following procedure to correct it. First, check that the edition is currently in the cumulative notice to mariners. Second, check in the latest cumulative notice to mariners against the chart number. The number of the uncorrected notices, note them down in the correction log. Third, or the last, start by correcting the latest correction first and proceed backward until all notices are corrected. So, cumulative list of Admiralty notices to mariners is published every 6 months, unlike those on the sailing directions, list of light signals, and what we call that radio signals. They are corrected weekly. So, and cumulative list of Admiralty notices to mariners is published every 6 months and lists correction numbers affecting each chart for the last 2 years. This should be used to verify that all corrections affecting a particular chart have been carried out. It also gives the date of issue of the current edition of each chart. So, this is all the topic that I've presented, sir. Then, hope that I have answered all the questions, the 4 questions that you give to us, or to me. Thank you for listening.